Did you set it right on my phone, or can I just do it?
You've got a body and you use language. You got body language, body language.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Good to see y'all. It's been about 2 months since I released a casty. It's good to see you guys. Sorry about the dim light. Actually, let me fix that real quick. Hang on. That may add a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little bit better. Anyway, what's up? How y'all doing? How's things been? How is shit? You know, I was watching some of the old podcasts from like 2 years ago when we first started this. Excuse me. Shit. And I've always had a sailor's mouth. I've always been like a shit, fuck, damn it kind of guy. But I feel like because I was drinking a lot more 2 years ago when we started this podcast, I like felt the need to cuss more to compensate for like my lack of content. And I just hate that. Hate that now that I'm 33, I look back on when I was 30 and 31 and started the podcast, that I did that. I do that with my music too. Like I use samples or I do little bitty ending notes that just straight piss me off in the future. But I mean, I guess that's what makes growth of an artist. Tea time real quick. Time out. If you hear any noise in the background, like random clicks or whatever, I've got some dishes running. We had the crock pot going last night. So I don't know. We got some dishes. I'm doing some damn dishes. Okay? I don't think you'll really pick up that much of it on the mic, but if you do, that's what it is. It should go off here pretty shortly. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was like such a missed opportunity on my part as far as like having a more wholesome podcast. Although there's nothing wholesome about this podcast. It's all just fart jokes and my takes on my take on the world and other podcasters and comedians and bloggers and things like that I enjoy. And music, just anything really. But I could have done it a little better, I think. Which I think is subconsciously why I haven't shot a crap ton of episodes since I've started this. I've kind of slowly edged my way back in let me rephrase that, slowly edged my way into the podcast community and in the podcast world. Hang on, I can't even think. This fucking thing. Good grief. God, like I said, after 40 episodes, you'd think I'd have some of this shit down. I don't. I'm learning. But anyway, I don't know. Like I haven't feel like I've found my place in the podcast community, in the podcast world, mainly because I still use like GoPros and phones and like lavalier mics, and I do combo audio, like this mic into the laptop, lavalier mics into the phone and GoPro, and I just stack the footage and the audio so you get the most clear sound for what I can afford or what I care to afford. But I don't know. I'm digressing. My point is that I haven't shot a bunch of podcasts because I don't think I'm that great at it yet, but I want to be that great at it. So I don't want to pump out a bunch of fucking shitty content and regret it later. I like Logan Paul and all, but I don't want to have the Logan Paul problem, like where you make, like, you become popular over something you don't necessarily want to become popular over. Like some of his older videos, he'll talk about on his podcast how he hates his old videos, but he leaves them up because that's what made him. That's kind of how I feel about the podcast. I think there's certain things that I knew I was going to be bad at, but I hung in there with it anyway. I was just like, I guess I got to get through this learning curve. Like I did the vlog, and I've recently started an outdoors channel to put like all my 4-wheeling excursions and my fishing and my hunting and I guess just outdoors travel, if you will, and out at my mom and dad's ranch. So I got like a segregated just outdoors thing, and then my family vlog, and then this. So the learning curve for the vlog is way well behind me, but the podcast learning curve, it's like, I don't know, man. I'm learning. Maybe I need to spend more time making those shitty episodes. Hopefully you guys don't think this episode is shitty. If you do, then fuck you. I'm trying here, and I'm trying to make wholesome, fun, semi-wholesome, fun content for you guys. Whether you're in your car, or you're at work, or I'm in your ear right now, like in your headphones or whatever, or you're just waking up and you want to hear my voice. Don't know why you'd want to do that, because I hate the sound of my own voice. You wouldn't guess that, but I do. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just saying, like, sorry to the people who have continuously followed me and wanted better content that I'm not giving you. It will happen at some point, I promise. And thank you for seeing me through the learning curve of it all, and while I found my place here, And I guess that goes for life too, like it wasn't up until over the last 3 years that I really find a lane that I wanted to stay in for forever. I feel like I went through, like, every 3 to 4 years I would go through like a phase where, I was passionate about something really, really hard, and then I'd fall out of it. I guess a lot of people do that, but it was just to a point to where, like, I would only involve things in my life that I was passionate about and made no time for any other things. Where now I've moved away from some of those, what I thought were passions, and started or found things that I'm passionate about, that I want to fill my free time with. I guess it's like how a lot of you people who watch this podcast and probably watch podcasts are in general, because you don't necessarily just listen to a podcast anymore for the shit of it. You typically listen to a podcast because you like that individual specifically for comic reasons, aesthetic reasons, whatever, or there's like a lane of podcasts you're being involved in, like whether it be horror or like the ASMR or like the murder mystery type shit, or the comedic approach, which I guess is where this is kind of lined up. It's more funny, more laid back, but like those things come out in your content. Like I think a lot more people back in the day would very clearly see that I was into like being in bands and more of the counterculture music scene, whether it be like mingling with DJs and doing a little bit of DJing myself, or being in bands, or kind of feeling like I'm like, you dress a certain way, not that you really keep it on the front of your lobe, you just kind of do it because it's the clothes that you own, but you just like, you'd find yourself as a young man or a young woman. And I even, most people, it happens around like your teen years or like your early 20s, but for me, I had so many interests and so many passions between skateboarding and fishing and going to the beach, but also being in the woods. And then like having like little pocket passions that ended up being lifetime passions, And you just never know. Those things gotta have time to grow, and those things you gotta give those things the allotted amount of time to become a part of your life before you go out and say, hey, this is something I'm interested in, or this is something I'm passionate about, or i.e. what we're talking about, starting a YouTube channel or a podcast over it. And it took me a long time, because I enjoyed so much of life. I enjoyed so many things in life that I couldn't just pick like one or two. Like I needed 3 or 4. So that's what I did, between fishing and skating and making content. Like music's always been my number one thing, like music and content. That's my thing. But I've been fishing a lot, and I've been edging my way back in to the podcast community, and spending a little bit more time outdoors and a little bit less time inside, and a little bit less time on my phone, more time in the woods, more time quite literally that you hear people talk about when they have like midlife crisis, or they go through something traumatic and they have to just rearrange something. For me, it just became like I have, for once in my actual real fucking life, found myself. So yeah, I feel like I'm having a real Theo Von moment right now where I started talking about one thing and I just went to another way faster than y'all had planned. But the bottom line is that most people who watch podcasts have a reason why they're watching that specific podcast, or, and I never had that. I just kind of got on the camera and was just like, and I guess that's still what this is. It's just a more refined block style version of it, a little bit more swallowable version of what we started like November 2019, October 2019. So I don't know. Not that this podcast is going to turn into anything other than just like funny sit down open format bullshit, because that's pretty much what I like. But if you like vlogs and things like that, we do have vlogs. We have an outdoor channel and a family vlog, like I said. So if you guys are into that shit, check that out. Cross pollination, shout out promotion there, shameless plug. But Tymco Outdoors, and then more vlogs. But anyway, I always had like the thought, why have we created such a social space, like a media place where, like, why couldn't all that exist on the same channel? I know some people do it and they do it successfully, but you don't see it often. Like, I want to know why, like, it's not more of a thing to like keep everything on one page. People have built the idea that you need to separate certain things, and though I do agree with that, I feel like a lot of it should mesh. That way you have the same identity in each project that you do. You know what I mean? Not only does that show like multifacetedness, but it shows that that you're true to who you are, like your however many interests you have or whatever you're passionate about. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like sometimes it deserves like an extra channel or another channel of whatever you're listening to or watching. And then sometimes I feel like you should say fuck that and just keep it all on one thing and never mind the rules, Anyway, hey, good to see you guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't. If you want to. If you don't, whatever. Suck it. I've been having a good time this last 4, 5, 6 months of life, with being outside and being able to involve Rowan. I wasn't aware that he had such an interest in being out in the woods and spending more like creative time on the beach rather than just lounging like we normally do. Like four wheeling and talking about going hunting. I haven't taken him hunting yet. I take him fishing every weekend, but all we used to do together would be skate and then come home and watch YouTube videos. But now we've always had a great relationship, but now it's gotten way better because of the outdoors. And it's not anything that I just picked up. It's things that I've done my whole life. I just started to do more of and involve him. And, here we are. So I encourage anybody out there who like, I'm gonna sound like a square dad for a moment, but I encourage anyone out there that's got children, especially if they don't like being outside, or honestly, especially if they do like being outside, take your kids outside and get them involved in something that you like, whether it's like metal detecting, fishing, hunting, skateboarding, rollerblading, biking. I would prefer like to be around water of some sorts, like rivers, creeks, beach, lake, ponds, for like fishing, for just like to be around fish primarily. But I found that Rowan likes that a lot as well. So maybe find something with your children, or I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, you could do that with anything, like your best friend that needs some love, or like some of your family, or, like anybody. It doesn't have to be like your children, but, if I'm speaking to you, then yeah, go outside more, man. Be on your phone. It's fine. It's fun. I hate this whole like, it's not healthy to be on your phone, or people spend too much time on their phone. People do a lot of fucking things that they shouldn't do, that they do too much of, like drinking, smoking, probably being on their phone, eating fast food. This is not a sponsor, but I just ate some fast food earlier. It's just one of those things that I feel like people just need to shut the fuck up and mind their own business. Like, we all do too much of shit. We do too much sitting down, you know? That's it. From here on out, we're going to do the podcast standing up. But, you know, like, whatever, dude. Be on your phone. Be on your phone. Go outside. Cut it in half, you know? Do half and half. I don't know where I'm going with this. Take your kids outside. Take your friends outside. Go outside. But after this podcast. Finish the podcast and then go outside. Man, my Jules going to die in the middle of this podcast, and that is going to frustrate me so badly. But we are going to deal. We are going to deal. I also meant to say a minute ago, Merry Christmas. Like, for real, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Like, I think last time we saw each other, it was like Halloween. Yeah, it was Halloween because we did the one chip challenge with Dan. That we'll never fucking do again. Not Dan. Dan's great. I love Dan. But that Packy company, y'all can suck the fart right out of my butthole because y'all don't. I bought that shit at a Tom Thumb for $8. Okay, I know all the warning labels on it, and I know all the. I know. We have a crap ton of hot sauces in this house. An astronomical amount of hot sauces. We love hot sauce. But that chip, man, maybe it's because it was just coated in the powder and it wasn't in liquid form where you could control the amount that you ingest, you know? Not that I haven't had days where I've overdone it on other foods, but it just seems so goddamn silly to sell that to people at Tom Thumb or a Shell station. You need to be 18 to buy that shit. That shit fucked me up, man. That shit fucked me up. That was not fun. I did not enjoy that. And it made me honestly not like tortilla chips and hot sauce for a few weeks. It up until like Thanksgiving, I'd say for a good month and a half, like I was done with hot sauce. I was like, it wasn't the taste, or it was the fact that it tore my stomach up and I had to ingest so much milk to get the taste out of my mouth that made me double sick. So it was like the hot shit, like crunching my stomach, and then the half gallon of milk curdling up and separating in my stomach. Plus, you know me, always drinking, especially during the podcast. So, not always drinking, but, if I don't know, if it's past noon and I got anything to do, I'm going to crack open a beer. If it's weekend, I'm going to drink some beer, whatever. Fuck you. Don't judge me. Judgment-free zone, y'all. Planet Fitness. Yeah, see, I'm keeping a mental note of, how much cursing I'm doing. I don't want to do too much of it. I don't want to, overboard, although it really doesn't matter because this is my platform and this is my channel, so I can do whatever I want to with it, but, whatever. Want it to be rewatchable when I'm dead. You know what I mean? But anyway. Yeah, dude, fan engagement with the podcast has been super low, and that's, to be expected because I haven't been on it. I would like to have some more guests on. If anybody's watching this podcast that has any interest on being on the podcast, and you're an interesting person, and you're worth a little sit down interview, you don't have to have special talent or nothing. Hit me up. I asked my friend Will Miller. Well, yeah, he's my friend. He's like an acquaintance. It's like 10, 11, 12 years ago, I met him in the music scene in Montgomery, and I've since moved on and done other things, and I still stay plugged into the punk rock scene and the hardcore music scene pretty closely, even though I'm not necessarily in the mix of it anymore. I still stay pretty plugged in, and he's really into pop punk and hardcore, so we have that connection, and we have little conversations sometimes. And I asked him, I'm like, you're kind of interesting dude, you should be on my podcast. And all he does is just collect music, so you don't have to have any sort of awesome talent. Just if you like what we got going on here and you want to promote something or just come on and talk shit or tell me how much you love me or hate me, you're more than welcome to do that. I know there's probably I can just think of one, maybe two specific people that'd like to come on here and tell me I'm going to say fucking hate me. And they're welcome to. They can sit. I'll scoot this bitch over right here and put another chair. We got 2 mics. Bring it on, bitch. But, whatever. I like having guests. I like doing the solo podcast because I like to talk about shit that I think is important. Like, we're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse here in a little bit. We're going to talk about COVID-19 here in a little bit. And, pretty much that. And the fact that I've got a 5-song EP coming out in February that's like just straight stripped down acoustic, like more folky type stuff. It's a real quick record, 20 minutes long, 5 songs. Wrote them all. Real quiet, chill acoustic music. I put the name like right here. Boop, 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 boop. And the date and stuff when it's going to come out. And yeah. So yeah, just talking about some random things. Also, you know what I just thought about? The music. Here we go. The podcast is getting greased up. We're getting some rhythm here, all right? See, look. This goes back to what I was saying about people thinking that they need to separate certain videos on their channels or make certain Instagrams or Facebooks for their certain interest in things. And where I said I understand and agree for the most part, but yet also disagree and feel like it needs its own lane. This is where I do agree. I have a SoundCloud, okay? This is connected by the music. We're talking about music. We're segueing the music conversation to the platform social media conversation we had. So how that's relevant is that most people have asked me like, well, where can I find your music? And most of the people who ask me that are people who already have my SoundCloud link. So I think I'm just going to upload, though it's not drastically, it's not like musicians haven't gone from one end of the spectrum of music to the other side, and then some things in between, country artists, rapping, rappers doing some rock doing some like ballady stuff. Somebody grew up on orchestral music, so when they're not playing bass and Tool, they're, y'all know what I'm saying. But I have a lot of electronic music on there. I've got a lot of like more future bass, chill, easy listening music. Some old Doper stuff. My old band Doper, like more of a jammy Southern style. I've got some punk rock on there, and it's like I just let all my music that I've created like stack up on that SoundCloud because it's just like a place to dump music, and it doesn't necessarily have like the face of a profile like everything else does in social media these days. So it's a little easier to jerk around with multifacetedness, if you will, on platforms like that rather than like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, where there's a lot of traffic. SoundCloud is definitely on the lower end traffic. You go there specifically to hear somebody's stuff or to hear something that can't be uploaded on Spotify due to copyright reasons or things along those lines. So I think I'm going to upload my record to the SoundCloud, and I'll leave a link to that on the bottom. Also, since we're talking about having guests too, I would love to do a live podcast. I know my buddy Casey Overby. I have been talking about this dude for 2 years. We have got to get him on here. We talk about having him on all the time. He and I talk about having him on all the time, but we just never fucking do it. That would be a cool live episode because he's got such a large following, an astronomically larger following than I do. But because he's such a chill, like easygoing guy, and he's an interesting dude. I think that would be a cool live episode, because when I met him, he was DJing, and then I've watched him stop that and then get back into the more social media pushing content every day kind of thing. And then now he's doing jiu-jitsu, and he's kind of meshing the content and the jiu-jitsu together, which is what I like because that's what I like to do. Not jiu-jitsu, but the mixing of contents. And he's a really cool guy, and he's got a really large TikTok following. So I think he'd be an interesting guy. I know y'all have heard me talk about him before. When we finally do get him on, it'll be like finding fucking the haberdash or like the what is that thing? What's it called? Damn it. What is it called? Chupacabra. You know what I mean? It's going to be finding like a jackalope, you know, like one of those rabbits with horns. It's going to be like it's a mystical creature. Like we finally got him in. But anyway, he's busy, man. I'm busy, man. He's got a pretty serious girlfriend with a career, and I've got kids and a wife and just jobs. They're not even careers. It's just jobs. But anyway, man, cheers to you guys, man. Thank you for letting me come on here and be myself. I want to thank you for letting me be myself. Thank you. Turnstile fans, you'll know what I'm talking about. Are awesome. I appreciate everybody like being cool in the comments and not being ugly. And, you know, I'm sure there's so many people that have seen this podcast over the 2 years that have probably are like, man, he should have done this better or should have done that, you know? And it's like, well, shit, should have said something, you know? But they don't say anything mean, so that's nice. Like everyone's been pretty cool about the podcast. Also, the intro to the podcast and the outro to the podcast, I think I may have said this before. I don't really remember. Some of the podcasts that we have shot with Chris Kuzma and Nick Prentice have been a little hazy. But Chris Kuzma is responsible for the intro. He's the one singing body language. It's like half a gallon of vodka and half a 2 liter of Mountain Dew deep. Like midnight one night, we were shooting a podcast and we took a break, and he just came out with that shit. This was like, if you got a body. I was like, man, this is great. So I made him do it again. I recorded it just as is right there in that big living room, and that's the intro because it's funny and pure. And I like it. But shout out to Chris Kuzma. Shout out to Chris Kuzma. Thanks for the intro to the podcast. Thanks for just accidentally making that. I didn't see that going down like that. But I guess some of them, it seems like every now and again you got an aunt or uncle or grandmother to tell you, you know, some of the best things in life come by accident, you know. So I guess that's one of them. You know, I was thinking, why have I not saved? I should have saved all of my Juul cartridges, like all the little bitty things that go in them, little pods. Because I started in 2018. I stopped smoking. I still have a cigarette every now and again. I'll probably have like a cigarette or two a month. I stopped buying them. I used to smoke a pack a day, you know, from 15 till 30. So exactly 15 years. So for the last 3 years, I've been on Juuls, and I have a cigarette every now and again. But I should have saved all those, man. Like imagine the recycling that I could have contributed to. If that, dude, a pod a day, shit, son, that'd be like around 1,000 pods right now. Sheesh. Be over 1,000 pods, I guess. Be like 1,000 and some change, wouldn't it? All this intelligence hiding up under this lip sweater, man. Math is on point. On fucking point, dude. Guys, like a Christmas tree, my wife did a great job. I helped a little bit, and we mostly always do it. Like it's a family thing. But this year, for some reason, she chose to just get up and like do it on her own. She just started kicking that ass all by herself, and Olive was coloring, and Rowan was on his tablet, and I was just sitting there like, oh shit, she's about to get to this right now. She just whipped it out, got to it. She did a great job. Great job. Not that y'all can see it in the frame anyway, but up here at the top of the tree, we have Jingles, you know, the elf on the shelf. And he hops around the house. And a few days ago, he was on top of the tree, so I thought that'd be cute to get in the podcast. But ended up not being able to make the damn podcast because framing issues. Anyway, I have this thing now where I've been spending so much time in my home, like for a while when I was a 9-to-5er for my whole life. There was a small stint where I worked at Walmart and worked a night shift there. But I missed that job. That was a dope job. I thoroughly enjoyed the work I did at that place in that department that I did. Anyway, when Olive was born, she still has RSV. It's a reactive airway disease. It's like a systematic breathing problem. And she has to have inhalers and breathing machines and nebulizers. She's on albuterol and budesonide, like a bunch of treatments that open up your lungs so you can breathe better. And because of that, the daycare thing didn't really work out. So when we all got back to work, shortly after, I had to rearrange my schedule. We put all of that of daycare, and I started working the night shift. Jessica would work during the day. I would keep Olive during the day. I'd work on music and clean the house and do dishes and laundry and just stuff, stay busy. And we'd go to the park. I made vlogs, just farted around. And after a while, she got older and she could start going back to school, pre-K. And for those 3 years, she's 4 now. So about 3.5 to 4 years, I stayed at home during the day with Olive and would work night shift and then play music on the weekends when I would get booked. And here recently, I have really felt those 4 years come back up on my ass a little bit, because I feel like I was always running from and when I say this, I don't mean running from responsibility in the format of I'm trying to avoid it, but I was always running from responsibility because I always wanted to make my own responsibility, taking care of my family and keeping an honest job, always at the forefront of survival in my life, and then other things fell second to that. So I've had all this time during the day to kind of jerk around all these things that I had passions for or is a huge part of my life. And now that she's gone back to school this year, I've had an extremely hard time with staying motivated, because I kind of just could do whatever, whenever I wanted to do it. In the early morning before my work starts now, I can go fishing, or I can come here and shoot a podcast, or I can edit something, shoot a vlog, go skate, work out, clean around the house, and then go to work, and then go get the kids, and then go get Jess. And then some nights she has a night job, and some nights I have a night job. I'll just continue doing what I did when she was, when I was keeping her during the day, some nights, if, the money's needed. And it's now, guys, I literally cannot, I have zero patience, because I feel like I have no time to do anything. But in actuality and in reality, I'm just not utilizing my fucking time properly to do creative things and segregate time limits from other time limits for certain important things, like chores around the house, getting to work on time, getting in my little bit of fishing, or getting in we have a rooster's nest that's in the middle of this awesome ravine that's dried out that I've built. If you guys follow me on social media, you've seen it. It's got a bunch of boulders around it and a big fire pit. It's beautiful. It's like a campsite in the Midwest. It's just right here behind our house. Spend my time out there, doing whatever. But now, man, it's become a real problem to want to do anything outside other than that, because my work schedule was only the night shift for so long. And now it's damn it, I can just sit right here and, because tomorrow I can just get up early and go do that. Or I've also become a man, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that can relate to this, maybe even some women too. But I have definitely hit that age in life now to where, or at least I feel like I have, where I am up and at 'em as early as I can. It takes me forever to wake up, But when I do, like I'm typically up early. Like I'll get up early and then just maybe 30 minutes later, I'm like kicking. I'm ready to go. Like ready to fucking go, man. Like, and when I don't have anything to do, that attitude isn't around. So it's like, what do I do? So then when I do have something to do, it like butts up behind me on wanting to be lazy. And it's like, I bitch about not having responsibilities, and I have responsibilities. And it's like I don't have responsibilities when I want to have responsibilities. I want to be irresponsible when I want to be irresponsible. I don't be responsible when I want to be responsible. You know what I mean? And it's like typically that's not a hard thing to deal with, but because of my lack of, I guess, discipline within myself over the last 4 years, because I'm definitely not a lazy guy and I'm not a depressed guy. I'm definitely a hyperactive dude. So it's weird. It's like internal issue much, By the way, if any of you clowns on the other side of this camera enjoy Burger King, get the rodeo burger, add cheese. Okay, I know it's a small burger, but get it. Get 2 of them and add cheese. It's the freaking best. I love it. I got Rowan one today too. He loved it. Verdict is out. Rodeo burger with cheese kicks ass. Okay? So, anyway. Just, I got reminded because of the Burger King Cup. Let's see, how long are we? 36 minutes. 36 minutes in, y'all. Man, this has flown by, dude. I feel like I just started. I was only going to do 45 minutes. That means in 10 minutes I'm getting off this thing. That's crazy. I've just rambled on about quite literally nothing. We haven't even talked about COVID. By the way, what the fuck is up with this Omicron shit? Like, I'm never the guy that's like, oh, well, I was for a little while and may have a little bit of harbored opinion on that still, but the government's out to get you. It's fucking you up. It's like, that's bullshit. Okay. Yes. The government may not be like on your side or working in your favor all the time, but it's not like if the government wanted you gone, you'd be gone. So, but this Omicron shit, it really got me thinking, like, I know we had that admittance of like, no, it didn't come from a bat. It came from an actual lab. And still some people don't believe that. But I mean, it was on the fucking news, like Fauci, I think, or Fauci. He admitted that this did not come from, like, Wuhan was a ploy. This came from or maybe I'm saying it wrong. Maybe it came from a laboratory and then made its way to Wuhan and then from Wuhan to the world. Maybe, but that's, it's on, like, I don't know why people have a hard time believing that shit. On top of all that, like, your mind wonders, you go to think like, is this actually government placement, or is this a situation where like something legitimately did just fucking happen that is a piece of shit? Like, did something happen? Did something just happen? Like, it leaves the mind to wonder, like what would one do if they were to find out that this was all planned? How would America react? How would like Southern Republicans react? It's a wild thing to think about, that could even potentially be an issue, that somebody up in the big green government sky is like throwing down some chemtrail fart clouds for everybody to breathe in. It's wild, isn't it? To think. It's crazy. And then if that's not enough to worry about, you got 17, 18-year-old kids like Kyle Rittenhouse transporting semi-automatic rifles, 3 counties over from where he actually lives. I don't think he crossed state lines. I could be wrong about that. But, he was a good 2 hours away from where he lived. And he's just like participating in some patriotism that ended up turning extremely dark, I mean, I've seen interviews of the kid. He doesn't seem like he was really out for blood. You know what I mean? Doesn't seem like he was out to really fucking kill anyone, although he clearly was prepared to. Doesn't seem like that was his MO. But I don't know, man. This is crazy shit happening in the world nowadays, and I don't really know how to deal with it. Not in the fact that it's happening, but how like other people that are way less stable than my children are going to read and hear about these things and see an opening in their future of like, well, if anything ever gets that crazy, that can happen. Or like, oh, if it ever gets that wild, you know, the government's going to step in and put some shit in your water, you know? Like, it's crazy to think about, man. Like, it was all stories, you know? I remember in 1983 when E.T. came out, you know, people were just like, wow, it's such a fantasy concept, like aliens and a boy, and they developed this bond, and it's just, you know, now it's like, that's not that crazy of a thing. Like, those motherfuckers exist. Aliens are real. They exist. We're going to be learning to communicate with them in the next 500 to 1500 years. This type of lifestyle it'll be obsolete. Like, the fact that there's only humans on the planet and not aliens will be something that people wouldn't even be able to fathom. Kind of like nowadays when you think back that black people couldn't even drink in the same water fountain. You think back on that, you're like, that was real? Like, what the shit? You know, so who's to say, man? I guess like each day at a time, the world keeps becoming a more tough place to be in. And it, again, leaves the mind to wonder, like, how much more hard is it going to get? Not just for like the under fire billionaires or the upper middle class or higher class citizens, but like, how much more harder is it going to get for like poverty and poor people and like, you know, lower class people? You know, it's wild. I hate hearing those stories that, you know, someone in someone's family passed away simply because they didn't have the money for medical bills or couldn't go forth with some, you know, that shit sucks. And it's like things like that are becoming harder to swallow because of just the everyday struggle of the world, you know, being in a place where you have to worry about, you know, an awful virus and disease coming around, or, you know, your president and your 12 officials not necessarily having your best interest as a human being. It's fucking wild, man. It makes you want to treat the people close to you a lot better. You know what I mean? It makes you want to like legitimately love people harder. You know, I was watching this podcast this morning on Joe Rogan. It's Joe Rogan podcast. It was episode 1363, I think. It was with Dakota Mayer. He was a Marine. And, you know, somebody as tough and badass as that dude and been through, he was telling a story about how he killed somebody with his bare hands and with a rock. He was hand fight combat with a Taliban member. And if that wasn't already scary enough, the fact that someone as tough and badass as him could come back to Joe Rogan's podcast and be given the opportunity to inspire people to want to pull through something as large as war with a mindset of love over I'm right, you're wrong, whether it be over oil, land, religious belief, gang warfare, whatever our country is typically. We're a beacon, like he said, we are a beacon of hope. We're a beacon of trust on this planet. You know, without America, a lot of countries wouldn't be here. You know, it'd be just roughly gang ran territories that Americans aren't allowed to fucking visit, which is already in existence in some places on this planet. But the fact that he could come back and want to promote, like, how about let's all find a reason for us to get along rather than to disagree and fight. Let's find reasons to like each other rather than to find reasons to not like each other. And this is, man, it's like feel good, you know. It's a lot easier to swallow something like that when you see somebody like me say that, because you know, people would look at me and make their own assumptions about why and where I came up with that. But when you see someone who looks and acts like Dakota Meyer and hear him say something like that, it makes you kind of shoves all those preconceived notions of like how Republicans are, how Christians are, how Democrats are, liberals, atheists, kind of just for a second, while those words are being said, it makes that entire mind, it frees you of that mindset in a way. And it's such a beautiful thing, at least for me from where I'm standing, and it's such a feel good thing that it's something that I feel like should be promoted more, especially because people who claim that they're the smartest people or claim that they are the better leaders fit for this country are the ones that are not teaching shit like that at all. It's fucking frustrating, you know, because then you become adamant about it, especially if you have children, you know, or you have somebody in your family that is in dire need of something and you can't get it to them simply because of like where you're wedged at in life. And sometimes you're wedged because of your own fucking bullshit, but a lot of the times you seem to be wedged just because that's where you were born, whether it be upper class problems or lower class problems. None of them is worse than living in like anywhere in the Middle East, anywhere in Afghanistan or Iraq during those times ever. America for the win, always. Not bitching about that. I've never served my country. The closest to serving my country is almost joining the Air Force when I was 19, but couldn't because I'm legally blind. And then B, I went to military school for my senior year. So I've never served, but I've rubbed chests with situations right up under my nose, like being able to go places on Navy bases or experience things with people in my family that are in the military that other people wouldn't have. So I've seen the sacrifice firsthand, and I would never say anything bad about America in that aspect or in that manner anyway, especially on this podcast. So, you know, no matter how bad it gets, just remember you're in America and it could be way fucking worse. Although Mexico seems pretty cool though. Mexico and England seems pretty legit. I could live in those places, you know. And again, there we go. There it goes right there. Just like you start the conversation here, and then we're talking about Rittenhouse and COVID, and we finally got the podcast greased up, and then it's just like, boo, talking about visiting Mexico like a complete stoner idiot. Oh man, it feels good to shoot a cast, dude. It feels good. You don't know, damn it. You don't know how much you need these things until like you start shooting them, and then you're reminded, like, oh, this is why I started my podcast. I've started to play. You know, you got a lot of things that you run into during the day when you're vlogging. I don't vlog every day. I vlog a few times a month, a few times a week, maybe. And you want to say certain things or want to give certain opinions on like the vlog, or if you're like maybe a Twitch streamer or content creator that you probably shouldn't say at that exact moment. And I didn't like that. So I wanted a place that, yes, I could have like my specific, like aim of why I got onto YouTube. And that was like just to document my family's like every other day life, and maybe create a different version of home movies, you know, with a dash of Casey Neistat on top, you know what I mean? But then I've really got into the YouTube community and platform use. So like, I was like, well, maybe you can have another channel where you can say shitballs, not say, you know what I mean? So oh, also, I saw that American flag up there on the tree. Also another guest we're going to have on. There is a gentleman that I met a few years ago at one of my shows. His name is Alan Holcomb, and he's an outstanding dude, and he's a veteran. And if I'm not mistaken, he just had pretty intense hip surgery, I think because of the military. I could be wrong about that. I may be wrong about that. But we're going to have him on, and he's going to talk about his soap company and his podcast. He's recently started a podcast. I don't think it's aired yet. I think he's just getting some episodes under his belt to post. And I think he still has a soap company, and he's pretty forward moving for like veterans and things like that. Like my buddy Jake Watkins, he has a thing called Operation Tackle Box, where he like gathers like quality fishing tackle for veterans who can't necessarily afford it. And like he raffles out like boats and trips on boats around lakes and rivers around where they live in Georgia. Outstanding dude, completely covered head to toes with tattoos like me. And he's just a good old dude, big beard, cowboy boots, bass slayer. It'd be great to have him on, but he lives pretty far away. Maybe one day. But Alan Holcomb, though, we're going to have him on. He's a pretty good dude. And he's Pensacolaite, good Floridian boy. But he's a good dude, talking about veterans and, you know, political views, because he's got some pretty strong political views. But he's so cool to talk about with politics, because he's the one guy that will just like Heisman, some fucking negativity. Like if you disagree, fine. There's no reason why we still can't continue to talk type guy. And I like that. It's, as someone who is just now getting into their 30s, third year in their 30s, I'm still learning how to properly debate, because there's arguing and then there's debating and then there's just like agree to disagree. So I'm trying to like step away from the argumentative aspect, because anyone who knows me in real life knows that I can sometimes be argumentative, and like I try to practice the opposite on social media. So I get a lot of wins on social media when it comes to like neglecting bullshit. Like I don't like say somebody started a rumor about you, which this has happened to me quite a few times via internet, specifically Facebook. You know, when it's getting the soul, you just got to remember it's not real. Like it's a fake place. It's like not a real place. Like it's a place for you to just allow people into your life as much as you want, to show what you want. You know, it's like you don't have to show your whole life on there. You can only show what you want. So it's very easy for people to say, oh, you don't show the real you. Well, nobody shows the real you, but that's because that's private. That's private and for fucking Mation, you know, like if you want to go that route, you know, it's private. It's not a place. I mean, you can, look at me. I got 2 vlogs and a podcast and a social media situation going on. So it's like, I think it's just a matter of how much time you spend on them, you know, not rather if you have them or not. But at the end of the day, man, like I kind of lost my point a little bit where I was going with that, but it's like, that's happened to me, you know, like rumors and shit before like that on Instagram and Facebook. It's happened a few times to me and it sucks. It's a real pain in the ass, but you know, you got to realize that it's only as real as you make it. Like you could step away from that Facebook quite literally right after a specific moment like that happens to you and never go back again, and it's no longer a problem. You know, I'm going to close that point out. I don't know how or why that got started, but you know, we're about an hour in. We're about 53 minutes in. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you guys for coming to the podcast. Episode 42 or 43. We'll see you soon. Like I said, we'll have Casey Overby on at some fucking point in the next 4 years. Alan Blake, Holcomb will be on. I'm sure Dan will be on soon. Rowan said he wanted to shoot another podcast. It's been about a year since we had him on. And yeah, so for all my other channels and YouTube endeavors, link in bio, leave a link to my SoundCloud as well. So y'all have a pinpoint on when the little EP's coming on out. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm pretty pumped about it. Some storytelling from like the last 10 years of my life. So I hope everybody likes it. And if you don't, fuck you, don't listen to it. But anyway, we love you guys. Body Language Podcast, episode 43 or 42. We love you. Like and subscribe. We out.
And you use language